And welcome to Rauta's Classic Reviews. Recently, we got to heard those sad news that Mr. Killjoy, member of many important bands, has unfortunately passed away. So that kind of made me to change the classic review album for this month. As sad as these news are, well, luckily he was a man who went and did so many great albums with many bands, and today I'm just gonna tell you a little bit about one of the best albums he was participating in. So, sadness is sad thing, death comes to us all, and well, gotta move on. Today's band is Necrophagia, and this is, in my opinion, their best album ever, and I guess it will remain that way too. So, Divine Art of Torture. I know many people wouldn't actually pick this one, or at least I would guess many people wouldn't pick up this one as the best of Necrophagia because it's kind of in betweener in so many ways. It's kind of classic Necrophagia, then again mixed with more melodic stuff, and kind of a interesting album in a musical ways, not to mention others. I'm not gonna fully unbox this because it doesn't make sense. This is a classic review, not a new review, but I kind of a little bit focus on the art here because this is, in my opinion, kind of a perfect horror metal cover for a horror metal album. Death metal as good it as be basically, but this cover is just beautiful. First of all, just let it kind of sink there for a while. There are nasty, huge spiders. There is a skull with this kind of a mastermind of I don't know, cult leader, I guess. There is another girl or woman tied to chain, and they have horror faces, because of these creepy spiders and whatnot. It's basically kind of a classic horror movie reflection, and the colors here are just, awesome. I think this is one of the best death metal covers ever. This is just simply beautiful. There's nothing unnecessary included, and the colors and the vivid image is just awesome. And what could be better than just have awesome music? Here's the band, by the way, with a kind of a horror house on the background and Mr. Killjoy in the middle. And I wasn't, quite a fan of Necrophagia when I got this CD for review some 15 years ago, and I was kind of basically totally surprised, with my pants down, as the saying goes, when this, kind of hit my music equipment, because I knew the band and some level, but like I said, I wasn't a fan. But this kind of changed that very fact. And still, I kind of don't like the old material as much as this and some of the stuff that came soon after, because the earlier material, while it's quite good, it's kind of just the common death metal. It's not very unique in any way, and it's not kind of evolved to a level what this album and some others actually managed to get later on. So, The Divine Art of Torture, why it is such a great album? Well, like I said, it all starts with the cover ideas, image and all that stuff, and kind of a weird digipack in a way that there is no place for this booklet. It just kind of hangs out here loose. So, like I said, little expectations when it first hit me, and now that I got back to it after many years of break, and I was like, man, this is still such a good death metal album. Now, what makes it so great is that the first thing that I kind of re-noticed when I started listening to it again a couple of times before making this video was that the production is just simply awesome. Now, I don't usually pay attention, as the primary thing when it comes to an album to talk about production, how the guitars sound and all that stuff. But this album is kind of near perfect, or maybe even perfect sound for a death metal album. It's kind of a dirty, it's greasy, it's violent, it's shredding, it's kind of a brutal, and it's dirty and muddy, and it's kind of a just awesome for a death metal album. The kind of a guitar, shredding sound that this album actually has is the type that, it just wouldn't matter basically how the, songs would be, because this production alone would just, be needed to define death metal in kind of a couple of seconds basically. But of course, songs are needed. I mean, like, average stuff is still average even though it's with good production. So that it got delivered as well, because since the very first track, it's clear that this is about horror. This is not about some, random douchebag serial killer, or, some, fantasies of, I don't know, whatever, bind, torture, kill kind of stuff, but more kind of a macabre, more kind of a, what happens in the basement kind of deal here. It's about, haunted houses and weird cults and witch doctors and I don't know, all kind of, classic horror stuff, the stuff that came out, I don't know, I guess in the 70s, these kind of very classic yet sometimes kind of a cheap ashes, horror movies which managed to capture both, the supernatural as well as, kind of a more mundane ideas. And then, just this becomes the kind of a soundtrack of those, movies. Think of the movies like Exorcist or Omen and the like, or, and that kind of a gets, or Amityville Horror, the classic kind of or Shining, that kind of a feeling. But this is more kind of a creepy than just, average death metal, having these themes of horror and whatnot. Because like I said, it's not only the sounds or, the riffs that, just bind together perfectly, but it's also these vocals which are kind of inhuman growling. Surely they sound like, the way death metal growling is meant to be, but kind of yet again more inhuman, something that is coming out of that dark lagoon or that creepy black forest out there, or maybe that long lost cabin, the kind of Evil Dead thing. And that is something that comes from all the directions, and everything just falls together like near perfectly. I'm not saying this is the best death metal album ever there is. I have counts of albums that in some sense kind of beat this album, but when we're talking about kind of a classic horror stuff, yet still kind of a modern, considering that this is this millennium album, not something that got conceived in the 80s or 90s, this is one of the best modern death metal albums. Not only because of these elements, but how the melodic parts are also, incorporated with the music. For example, there's this one lead that kind of reminds me of Swedish mellow death metal, and as such, it's not something that I found very tempting. But on this album, it just kind of matches the kind of a dirty and muddy kind of a horror feeling, in a bizarre way that actually makes a lot of sense. It's kind of like a counterbalance thing, because this is so heavy and, kind of a muddy and, kind of a gross cellar-like feeling. Then these clean melodic parts, kind of lead guitars, are, suddenly, shedding some weird light there. Like these are like a those old kind of abandoned buildings where you can see the crack in a ceiling or hole, and this kind of sun shines through there, and it kind of becomes this kind of a eerie lightning. It's kind of weird because it's actually kind of more scary than just total darkness in a way, because that light kind of reveals what horrors are lurking in the shadows. And that is why I find these elements so fascinating, because they are supporting each other instead of driving away from each other. And all the elements here are just basically creating a wonderful piece of death metal. Something that in my opinion, kind of should have more redefined the death metal of this millennium, because as it is, it's kind of classic. It's kind of a very horror-esque, kind of a cliche in a way. And then again, it's also some kind of a shedding new skin shit. A death metal album that makes these two worlds kind of collide. The classic dusty corpse death metal, and then again this more vivid, more modern way to put it there, and that with perfect production, excellent vocal works, cool themes, and samples that are there to make support the whole album. So what can I say? A 5 out of 5 album, definitely, and something that in my opinion should have kind of helped you I don't know, shape the modern death metal in a way that most albums never had the chance to do. So Necrophagia, the divine art of torture, still after 15 years, a pure modern classic that deserves to be heard, deserves its place in your record collection, dear Mr. or Miss death metal head. So if you have just completely missed this gem, this jewel, this fine gem, go check it out. Get your copy and enjoy pure horror death metal the way it was meant to be. See you soon with another review. Rauta says good night.